So this is for us totally new impression, totally new opportunity. Germany comes as an off-taker, Germany comes as a demandeur on energy, and we are talking to our partners worldwide that are potential producers of energy, of renewable energy, because this is what we need and what we look for. And it's not only Germany, of course, it's Europe. In total, the demand in Europe for renewable energy is much higher than what we can produce in Europe ourselves. But Germany is going ahead and really being a front runner also in establishing this partnerships further. I would like to, with this background, maybe I can just mention the instruments that we've been developing over time now, and the instruments that we also want to pursue over the next few years. The most important flagship instrument is the H2Global instrument. I will not go into detail there because otherwise I would say everything that you would want to say. So H2Global is the most important instrument that we have, but we have other instruments as well. We had a funding guideline developed in 2020. We started in 2021. It became open for applications. We had 3 rounds of applications, and we are hoping to have more rounds later this year and also probably next year. We're really aware that most of the projects that are developed now are in a very early stage, and we want to follow up with the funding guideline with projects that are now being started and now being thought about. The funding guideline is a funding guideline that is, you are aware, probably all of you, that we have a very strict state aid law in Europe, which means that we cannot give support money to companies as we wish, but we have to follow very strict rules. And the very strict rules are, for example, in the funding guideline, then we are limited to 15 million euro. That is per company per project. This is not huge if you have a real investment project, but it's still something that can help to make projects bankable or to develop the projects in a very early stage. The funding guideline is aiming for projects that are over the whole value chain. So we're not only looking at hydrogen production, but we're also looking at developing projects. We are looking at transport of hydrogen or hydrogen derivatives, of course. We're also looking at projects that are looking into application of hydrogen. So this is also something that we would support. And with the funding guideline, it's also not focused on import projects or export projects, in this case for Chile, but also for projects that are fully on the ground trying to develop something there. The funding guideline also has a research and development component. So this is also something that might be interested for corporations that are more focused on innovation and research and development.
Can I ask a short question? Or is it not possible? Yes, but because there's H2Global, and when you say the funding guideline,
2 different things.
It's 2 different things. The funding guideline has different sub-guidelines or sub-programs, or?
It has 2 modules.
Yeah.
So thank you for the question. It has 2 modules, to be fully clear. One module is for projects that are along the value chain, like real demonstration projects or development projects. And then there's another module that is supported by our Ministry of Education and Research, and that's the second module, but applications still go through the same funding guideline. And this is for innovation collaboration. So also, universities collaborating or really institutes that are more looking into development of certain technologies. For example, the AC direct air capture is one of these technologies that we look at. But we're very open, we're very technology open there as well. And with all our funding instruments, we have a focus on green hydrogen. I would like to emphasize that as well. So we're really looking, when it comes to the production of hydrogen, we are looking at the production of green hydrogen. With the funding guideline, we're also looking at the whole value chain, but not necessarily including the development of renewable energy projects, because we feel this is something that is covered by other funding guidelines. But from there to the application of hydrogen or hydrogen derivatives, everything is included, basically. When it comes to production, we're focusing on green. When it comes to transmission, when it comes to transport, logistics, or application, of course, there we are what we call colorblind. We don't care where the hydrogen comes from, because for application and for transport, it doesn't matter whether it's coming from renewable or not. So this is also something that we want to consider in our funding instruments. We are also developing innovation fund that's not implemented yet, but it's developed, ready to be considered in the next budget year, which is 2023. But the funding guideline, we want to go much beyond what we have with the fund. Sorry, we want to go beyond the funding guideline. The funding guideline is a development up to 15 million, where we have, developing projects or supporting little pilot projects. With the fund, we really want to be able, with KfW, cooperating with KfW, to really support with financing larger scale projects. But that's not, this is only an announcement. It's not ready yet for application, but we'll of course come back to you through the chamber and through the EP, through the Energy Partnership, to inform you about that. And the last project that we also can discuss a little bit more in detail if you want is H2Up, which is a program that is also implemented by GIZ, also here on the ground, where we want to support a development of projects in smaller projects of small and medium-sized enterprises, also projects that are along the whole value chain, a lot of capacity building and support by GIZ team here on the ground, and also with cooperation with German partners. But this is a brief overview. I would like to hand over to Markus, not to talk too much, and to also be able to receive your questions during the discussion.
Thank you very much, Christine. Thank you very much for inviting me, for giving me the opportunity to explain a little bit more what is H2Global about. And hopefully I will. Oh, that was wrong. Thank you very much for I told you, so I will mess it up.
This one?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
If maybe we can sort of fill in a little bit, because I have some companies that are in streaming also asking. Well, can you afterwards share something of materials? That's what they're asking.
Yes. Yes, very happy to do so. We have some brief information also on the funding guideline, also on H2Global. We have the presentation, of course, and I can also give some background also on energy policy in Germany. We have prepared some slides that we would like to send them around after.
Right,
yeah?
Because there's still a lot of confusion about where to sort of, which is the correct fund that you can apply to, or yeah, I can also, after Markus' presentation, I'd be happy to also summarize a little bit what kind of projects would be probably going into which direction best, and then also who is the best person to talk to, right? Right.
Do that.
Okay, thank you very much. So hopefully you can see now the slides. We have 10 minutes. That's what I've been told. That's very challenging for me, but I'm quite sure as well challenging for you. But I'm quite sure some of you, they know already H2Global. So I will try to make it a little bit more lively and give you a little bit more insights. What does it mean, or what that could be possibly mean for cooperation within Chile? H2Global was designed 2 years ago with the first idea developed by a colleague of mine, Timo Boller, and myself. We discussed it 1.5 years ago, or a little bit more. This was Christine and her team, and since then we developed H2Global jointly. So it's a joint effort, it's a joint project. It is very much, let's say, in line with the needs of the German government, especially with the Ministry for Economy and Climate Action. It was right from the beginning designed as a very defined system, defined by time, defined by size, defined by volume. It is a bridging mechanism, and we took into consideration that some instrument is really necessary and needed, what is able to support a very quick market ramp up. We know there are some supporting instruments are already on the market since decades partly. But normally these instruments takes a little bit longer until they, let's say, develop their power. And our intention was to make it quick, to have something what is very quick and to support the market. It was quite obvious, and it was as well part of my work within the last 20 years within GIZ, by knowing that projects are already there. are normally several countries, they have very good project pipelines. The offtake is always the question, and to have a really solid and really reliable offtake, that was something we wanted to create. H2Global is made just for a time being, for 10 years. We expect that there is no market for green hydrogen. This market needs to be established, but our guess is within the next 10 years, such kind of market will be established globally. We use the instrument of contracts for difference, that it's a very common instrument in the UK, for example, 2017 for all offshore wind projects. So it's a very common system. And what we did, we made it as competitive as it can be. We designed a twin auction-based model. So we have an auction on the purchase side, we have an auction, say, later on the offtake side. That was the thesis, that there is a price gap right now, and it is still. And even after this terrible war in the Ukraine, there is still a price gap. We know that the prices for the fossil fuels are extremely high, but there is still a price gap. We expect that this price gap will be closed within the next years because of regulation, because of everything what will come from the European Commission, everything what will come from the German government, and the willingness to pay for green products and so on. So we expect that the price gap will be closed. Nobody can say how long does it take. We will see. But to make it sure, that the investor and the project developers will have, let's say, a good or a very solid offtake, or can get a very solid offtake agreement, we will start. And this will be done now within the next month with the first fund provided by the BMWK of 900 million euros. We will start with 3 auctions in parallel. One auction for green ammonia, one auction for green methanol, one auction for green PTL. In our particular case, it will be jet fuel. So we will start with the auction by saying whoever provides the biggest volume for 300 million euro each, based on criteria the ministry will set and we will use for our auctions, will get the strike. Whoever will get the strike will get a fixed and a guaranteed offtake of 10 years for a fixed guaranteed price. HINCO, our hydrogen intermediary network company, the HINCO, it's still there. The HINCO who will run all these auctioning processes will guarantee these particular price for 10 years and will pay this particular price then to the winning bidder. Whoever wins the competition or who wins will get the strike can bind his finance on these particular guaranteed sum. This is the offtake we can guarantee. The offtake is guaranteed with, let's say, with the support or with the guarantee we have in our bank, German government. So that means HINCO can provide or can act as a AAA investor or the blue chip investor. That makes it, let's say, very promising or very solid for all companies who need a very solid offtake. On the other side, HINCO will not use these products, so they will bring it in the market. This will be done time divergent, not directly. It will be done 1 year after we start with the first auctions for the production side. And we will have very, first of all, time diversion and very short-term offtake auctions. 6 months, 12 months, or 18. So it depends what kind of product we might have. It depends what kind of, let's say, industrial industries be, let's say, most or where the demand of the industrial side is. But it will guarantee on our side that we will have highest possible price for so whoever provides the highest price based on criteria as well set by the industry will get here the strike. It means the price difference between purchase and between the offtake is as small as it can be. This is, let's say, our guarantee we would like to give to the ministry that we will use the money provided by the ministry as efficient as possible.
Are there also other criteria that are going to influence in the decision? Because one is price and the other one, as we talked before, maybe, I don't know, social, environmental issues?
We will come later to
Okay.
Just to give you a short brief insight on the instrument or the mechanism.
Yeah.
I will just run through it just to make sure that at least I can mention the most. Okay, you can still see it hopefully. H2Global works, we call it window logic. Whoever provides funds to H2Global must precisely define the criteria we'll be using. So criteria is defined in our particular case for the first 900 million only by the ministry, by the BMWK, but as well discussed with other ministries and within the government. But set definitely and precisely by the providers of the funds. We can do that in parallel. So whoever provides additional funds to H2Global in parallel has to set his own criteria. Just to give you some examples, we are in close negotiation with other ministries who want to use H2Global as well as an instrument for the market ramp up with totally different criteria. So the production side need to, so the production side can be in Europe or can be in Germany. The criteria can be totally different. The product can be totally different. We are doing that, or we are negotiating the same with the neighboring country of Germany. Wants to use H2Global as an instrument for their own market. We can do that as well with other countries. For example, we are doing that since or we are discussing these particular issues since weeks with the Australian government, with some other governments as well. So this is what H2Global can do. Criteria set by funds. H2Global is just the mechanism. H2Global as a mechanism is very agnostic. It works always the same. It just needs the right or to set the criteria, and then the mechanism works. It will work as well for green ammonia. It will work the same like whatever for green PTLs. It doesn't matter if the production site needs to be southern part of South America or northern part of Africa. It doesn't make any difference. The mechanism always works the same. H2Global Foundation. So I described already that everything we are doing with H2Global will be done through our intermediary, hydrogen intermediary network company. For this company, it was necessary to have an owner, to have a real owner who is not, let's say, poisoning the bidding processes. In our particular case, it's a foundation. The government told us right in the beginning that they don't want to have a state-owned entity. So everything done within H2Global should be done from the private sector. The foundation has, let's say, one very, very interesting thing for us. The foundation is not owned by anybody. Foundation is just owned by itself. But the foundation can own a company. So in our particular case, the H2Global Foundation is the owner of the company. The funders Foundation are, let's say, all the well-known companies we all know from the hydrogen sector. We are now a little bit less, we have a little bit less than 40 funders. All the big ones from Germany, say from Siemens, ThyssenKrupp, RWE, E.ON, all the big ones, Deutsche Bank, and now more and more international companies joining H2Global. We have now 6 funders from France, we have funders from the United States, from Australia, and so on. So the H2Global Foundation grows week by week. We have every week at least 1 or 2 more funders who are supporting the foundation. The H2Global Foundation is on one side the owner of the H2 of the HINCO, and on the other side, what we are doing within the foundation, we are working in different working groups in all, let's say, very relevant topics for the market ramp up. Logistics, transport, certification, standardization, financing, subsidies, double subsidies, all that will be discussed or is under discussion and let's say under concept development within these working groups. This is what we are doing, and this is, let's say, where H2Global works really as a platform from the industrial sector on one side, and as a, let's say, as a discussion platform between the industry and between the government. we are doing as well, and this is part of the coalition contract signed by the new German government last year in November, that H2Global should be Europeanized. So we are now developing ideas how H2Global can be used in the European Union for European funds. This is something we are doing now very closely, as well, of course, with the ministry, as well with other players from the European Union, and of course with the Commission. This is something what we are discussing as well with the Commission. So how H2Global could be shaped, could be look like in the future, how can it be used by other governments, can be used for other purposes, and so on. This is more or less in a nutshell. So we will start now with the first process, just to summarize. Hopefully, Chile will play a role, hopefully an important role now within the first auctions. And this is, from my understanding, for our understanding, the starting point. We would like to start with H2Global, and then we will how it might look like. Thank you very much. I thought we would do that within the discussion. So criteria, of course, criteria, like I already said, needs to be mentioned, precisely mentioned by the institution or by the Ministry of Defense. In our particular case, of course, we have additionalities. So we have additionality for water, for example, we have the additionality for the power supply. And let's say, this is maybe something you could explain much better than I. So for the Ministry of Economy and for climate action, energy security is most, or one of the very valid aspects. For other ministry, maybe additional aspects might become as well very important. Let's say, for example, German Ministry BMWK, if they would like to use H2Global, this is something we are designing. Maybe other criteria like you mentioned, so local needs or participation of the civil society or prominent.
We are differentiating between criteria that you have to enter the process, to enter the competition. So for example, certain readiness of the project. So only those companies can enter the competitive dialogue if they do have a project in the pipeline that is realistically being able to supply hydrogen for import from 2025 onwards. Projects that are in a very, very early development stage, they won't be able to sign into the competitive dialogue at the very early stage. So also criteria like references for projects that they have done before, or also, a very clean record of projects concerning the sustainability. And then, but that will be very clear in the beginning. So when we put out the tender, and this will probably be in July or August, when we put out the tender, or HINFO puts out the tender, there will be very clear-cut English-speaking criteria on what is expected.